Are you planning a visit to Gatlinburg, Tennessee sometime in the near future? Don't get me wrong, Gatlinburg's an incredible place to visit, but just like almost anywhere, there are things about Gatlinburg that are amazing, and there are things about Gatlinburg that might have you considering spending your time and money someplace else. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the good and the bad, the pros and the cons when it comes to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, so you can make a good decision on if this is the right place for your next vacation. Let's get into it. All right, so pro number one, and it is the area's natural beauty. If you've been to Gatlinburg before, you will attest to the fact that the Great Smoky Mountains is a beautiful place, and Gatlinburg itself is one of the main entryways to get to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The area is absolutely stunning and beautiful, and to be honest, when my family and I visit 3 or 4 times a year, the main reason we come to Gatlinburg is for the park. We come because it's such a beautiful and relaxing outdoor space. We do the hiking and we play in the streams and we go looking for the waterfalls. It is absolutely beautiful. And don't even get me started on the fall. When October rolls around and the leaves start changing, don't get me wrong, Gatlinburg becomes very busy, which we'll talk about later. But more so than that, it's almost like just an artist took a paintbrush and just painted all the mountains in the most beautiful, vivid colors you've ever seen in your life. It is truly unique and probably one of the best spots in the entire United States to be able to see beautiful leaves in the autumn. All right, so pro number two, it's home to some really amazing attractions, honestly fit for the entire family. Every time we go to Gatlinburg, our kids are always asking to take them back to places that we've been to before, which is a huge testament to how amazing some of these places are. You have everything from the Ripley's Aquarium of the Smokies to Ober Gatlinburg ski resorts, the Space Needle, which has been in Gatlinburg forever, Skybridge, Anarchista. These are all places that not only does my family enjoy going to over and over and over, but every time we bring friends and we have guests that come into Gatlinburg, they also have an incredible experience at these places. Now, I think it's pretty obvious, but I think it's worth being said that having the attractions there always provides something to do. Honestly, when we go to Gatlinburg, we're never bored. Depending on what we're feeling like doing on any particular day, there is probably something that we can do to fill that need. And regardless of whether you're talking about my 8-year-old, my 4-year-old, or my 2-year-old, we constantly have things at our disposal to keep them entertained and to keep them busy, which honestly keeps my wife and I pretty happy too. All right, pro number three, and that is the unique accommodations you can find when you visit Gatlinburg. Now, although Gatlinburg in town does have a few motels, hotels, those kind of places that you can stay, what's also very common are cabins. And it actually gives you the ability to have a cabin-like experience while you're close to the national park. Now, probably the biggest reason that my wife and I prefer to stay in cabins over other places when we visit Gatlinburg is because it facilitates quality time with our friends, family, and kids. When we've traveled in the past, oftentimes we're always in this conundrum of if we get motel rooms, we have to get kind of a block of motel rooms. Where do we spend time together? It's kind of hard to communicate. It just feels like everybody's like texting each other and, emailing each other and calling each other like, where are you now? I don't know. Where are you now? Well, I think we're going to go over here. And it just causes, as opposed to all being in the same home together or the same cabin together, it allows you to be able to connect at the beginning of the day and honestly, most of the time at the end of the day in a very real way. And we love that. When you visit Gatlinburg and you're booking a cabin, I mean, there's kind of a situation for every kind of family. There are cabins that have game rooms. There are cabins that have movie theaters. There are cabins that have pools. It just kind of depends on what you're looking for you and your family. Now, every time that my wife and I come and visit with our children, we've built traditions around coming to the cabin. We always start the first day with cinnamon rolls. That's not something that we normally eat while we're at home. We always have Brunswick stew in the evenings, which actually kind of brings me to my last point on this, which is by getting a cabin, sometimes you can actually make Gatlinburg a bit more of an affordable trip. What we do is we tend to always just pick up groceries and cook most all the meals at the cabins. We'll have breakfast that we make at the cabin every morning. Typically, we're eating lunch while we're out and we're being active. And then in the evening, we always get back together with our family around the dinner table and we get to have dinner that we've cooked there in the evening. For us, that's really fun. We enjoy that. Every time that we come to Gatlinburg, we'll always try to visit one new restaurant or 2 new restaurants But for the most part, we cook there at the cabin, which saves us money, and we really appreciate the ability to be able to do that. All right, so pro number 4, when it comes to Gatlinburg, honestly, there is something for everyone, no matter what kind of adventure you're looking for. Are you somebody who loves the outdoors? Don't worry, we've got hiking, camping, biking, kayaking. It's all available in the national park. Do you have kids? Visit the candy stores, visit the arcades, visit the attractions. Are you a foodie? I mean, there are so many great restaurants. You've got everything from the Peddler to the Chesapeake, the Pancake Pantry. You got Smith & Sons, Best Italian, Greenbrier, Calhoun's, Jason Aldean's, Crockett's Breakfast Camp, and that's just to name a few. Are you a thrill seeker? Try out the mountain coasters or the zip lines or the rope courses. Are you looking for something a little bit more unique? You could try things like Ripley's Believe It or Not. Are you the kind of person that just enjoys window shopping and a lazy stroll with coffee or hot chocolate? There are countless small, locally owned shops there in Gatlinburg. You'll honestly never get bored with all the shops that you'll find there on the strip. And then pro number 5, there are some awesome events that take place in Gatlinburg throughout the year that my family has, again, come to really look forward to and enjoy. The 3 big ones that I'll mention are the 4th of July. The fireworks from the Needle are very cool. It's always a fun time, and it's always a great opportunity to get to the mountains. The Craftsman Fair from mid to late October is always another great festival that's going on. My children actually really enjoy going to the fair and just getting to see all the handcrafted items that are made by artisans from all over the place. And then finally is the Fantasy of Lights Christmas Parade. This parade actually holds a special place in my heart. When I was in high school, I actually was in marching band, and I got to march in the parade several times. When I became a band director, I actually had the opportunity to take my kids to Gatlinburg and march in the Fantasy of Lights Christmas Parade. And this parade draws gigantic crowds every single year. This past year, I actually just got to go participate as an observer and watch the parade just like everybody else. And it was an incredible experience, and we had so much fun. All right, so before we get to the cons, I want to share with you that this video is being sponsored by Shangri-La Views. Shangri-La Views is an absolutely amazing cabin designed to make lasting memories with the people that you love. It's actually where our family stays every single time we come to Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. It's a 5-bed, 5-bath cabin. It has a game room, it has mountain views, and is centrally located right between Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. It's literally 15 minutes from either Dollywood or Anakeesta, depending on which direction you want to go. If you're interested in learning more about Shangri-La Views, just check the description below to see if dates are available for when you and your family are going to be in the area. If it's a good fit, you can go ahead and book your dates now. All right, so like I mentioned before, there are some incredible pros about Gatlinburg, Tennessee, but there's also some cons, so let's get into it. All right, so con number 1 when it comes to Gatlinburg, Tennessee, and that is it can get very busy. Like walking down the sidewalk makes you feel like sardines in a can busy. I'm not kidding. I've been there several times when it was near impossible to actually get from one side of the street to the other because there were so many people moving around. To avoid the crowds, the best time to visit Gatlinburg is April and May and August and September. The weather is great during this time, and because school isn't out yet in most places across the Southeast, it's very easy to navigate Gatlinburg. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, when's the worst time to visit Gatlinburg? Typically, it's any time that school is out. That's the best way to think about it. So for the most part, summer break, so anytime June and July, and also winter break, those tend to be the busiest times for both Gatlinburg and Pigeon Forge. All right, con number 2 is that Gatlinburg can get expensive pretty quickly if you're not careful. I always recommend that families come to Gatlinburg with a bit of a budget in mind and plan ahead what you want to do and what you don't want to do. If you're like me and you're like my kids, when you're walking up and down Gatlinburg, there's going to be so many things to catch their attention that they're going to want to go do and they're going to want to go try. We always, as a family, try to determine what it is we're going to do each day before we arrive, and that helps us to be able to keep things within budget pretty easily. We've heard from a lot of guests who's come and stayed with us, also from our own friends and family, that they were surprised at how much money they ended up spending before leaving Gatlinburg. And that's honestly because all of the things add up pretty quickly. Sending a family of 5 up to Anakeesta and then walking down the street and getting some fudge and caramel apples, and then walking further down the street and picking up a souvenir, and then walking a little bit further down the street and going up to Ober, and then visiting Skybridge, and then going up the street and going to Ripley's, and then going to the aquarium the next day. All those ticket prices and all those things can end up becoming more and more expensive if you're not keeping tabs on how much you and your family is spending while you're there. Going back, this is one of the big reasons why my family and I do always tend to cook breakfast and cook dinner at the cabin, because it does help us to save a little bit of money. All right, so con number 3 is that Gatlinburg typically involves a good bit of walking. To minimize walking, one of the places that we always recommend guests to go and park while they're in Gatlinburg is the parking lot right next to the Sky Bridge. It's about $15 to $20 typically to park there, so kind of expensive, but you are centrally located right in the middle of Gatlinburg. So depending on which way you go, either up the hill or down the hill from there, it's honestly pretty easy to get back to your car from either direction. If you're looking for free parking, one of the best places to do that is along Riverside Road. But I'll be honest with you, you have to show up early, and that's especially true during the busy season because those spots get taken up really fast. The other place that I recommend guests to park if you're going to stay on the lower end and visit places like Anakista and the aquarium is going to be the parking lot right behind the aquarium. It's actually city parking. One pro tip I'll share with you is if you're looking for handicap parking, you can actually get it for free in the city lots. The parking lot behind the aquarium is one of them, and then the lot on the corner of 321 is the other spot that you can get free parking if you need handicap accessible parking. All right, so con number 4, and that is the roads around Gatlinburg can be very narrow, a good bit steep, and kind of tricky to navigate. Because honestly, there have been many times that my family and I have gotten on a side road because the navigation is taking us a slightly different direction, and we have gotten a little concerned that we're about to fall off the side of the mountain. Now, I will say we do drive a bigger car, and honestly, it's not that big of a deal. But what we found is that not a lot of people take those curves around the mountain as slowly as we do. So this is the only thing I would say, or the only bit of advice that I would give you for this. When you're booking accommodations, just reach out to whoever the owner or manager is and just ask them what the roads are like leading up to the hotel, cabin, or wherever you're planning on staying. A lot of times it's not that big of a deal, but there are quite a few places around Gatlinburg that honestly, I wouldn't want to book for me and my family just because it's not worth it, especially if I'm visiting some time of the year that, you know, snow and ice is a bit more likely. All right, so con number 5, this is the last one, and that is Gatlinburg can feel super commercialized. If you haven't been to Gatlinburg in 10, 15, 20 years, you're probably going to be shocked at what it looks like today. And I think that honestly, whether or not this is a pro or a con or a big deal to you, just kind of depends on who you are and what's important to you. Now, I will say, even though a lot of the attractions and restaurants, personally, my family and I do like, a lot of it does start to feel a little bit like a tourist trap. For me, I define a tourist trap as something that promises an amazing experience, but doesn't actually deliver. And I will say there have been several times in Gatlinburg that I feel like I got caught by a tourist trap, where my family and I paid to have an experience, and then we were kind of disappointed in the experience at the end. Not everywhere's like that though, but that was pretty rare. The places and the attractions and the restaurants that I've mentioned so far in this video are all places that I would encourage any of my family to go visit, and I know that you and your family would probably enjoy it too. The last thing I'll say really quickly is there's also a lot of people that talk about the loss of authenticity when it comes to the commercialization. And again, I get it. I think that there's probably a lot of truth to this. Because when you think of Gatlinburg and you think of the Great Smoky Mountains, there is a certain nostalgia that I think a lot of people are looking for. Now, does that really take away from the experience that most people are having when they come? Of course not. I think 90% of everybody who comes to Gatlinburg has an incredible time. And honestly, most people that I talked to said that they want to return in the near future. But for me, we don't come to Gatlinburg just for Gatlinburg. We come to Gatlinburg because of the Smokies. And now for that reason, it doesn't really bother me or my family all that much, but it might bother you. And if it does, please let me know in the comments below. I would love to know from your perspective what Gatlinburg was and if it really was better before all of the new business came in over the past couple of decades. Thanks for taking the time to watch this video. I hope it was helpful for you. I hope it helped you discover maybe a few things that you hadn't thought about before or you didn't know before planning your trip to Gatlinburg. If you have suggestions for future videos, please let me know in the comments. I am here and I am making what you need in order to plan your trip most effectively. Have an incredible day and we'll see you soon.